Today's guest manages over 70 million in apartment communities across Oklahoma. And her first one, and I think her second and third as well, she bought while living in the UK, so not even in the United States. Talk about long distance. She got into the multifamily syndication from day one without ever doing single families, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, or anything like that. So tune into this episode and listen, because I'm excited how Suzy shares her entry into real estate investing, what has helped her succeed, and lessons learned for you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Freedom Blueprint. I'm Adrienne Green, and today I'm very excited to have with me Suzy Sevier. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me join. I'm super excited.
I have known Suzy for years, and she has been an awesome real estate investor and syndicator who's been hustling since the minute I met her. So I'm excited to have her share her story with us today. Now, Suzy, we're going to start at the beginning. And to be honest, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot here as well, because I know part of your story, but how did you really get started in real estate investing?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go through that part, the beginning part of our journey. So it really all started because of COVID. So at the time, my husband and I were living overseas in England. And when COVID happened, there was just a much different experience in the United Kingdom than there was in the US. When we were shut down, we were really shut down. And so I was working from home, and my husband, who does wet lab research, was taken away because you have to do that in person. And so him and I were like, okay, well, what are we going to do for these next couple of months? Because you could only leave your house once a day to go work out, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy. And to go to the grocery store and the pharmacy, you had to do it solo. You couldn't even go with your partner. And so we were like, okay, hey, let's start a mini book club with one another. And the first book we read was The Slight Edge. And it talks about being 1% better every day. And so after we were done reading it, it was well, we have to get all the books in the back. Are we really taking his advice? One of those books was Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. And the whole second section talks about real estate investing. And Michael was just like, hey, do you think we could give this a shot? And I was like, well, why not? And so right away, got on the internet, found Bigger Pockets, found From Military to Millionaire. And so that one stuck with Michael, and reached out in the Facebook group and was like, hey, is anybody investing while living overseas? And somebody was like, yeah, actually, I'm in the UK too. I'm only a couple hours away from you. We should have a call. And Michael and I did the whole imposter syndrome thing. Can we actually have a call with this individual? Is this going to be silly? What's going to come from it? He was like, hey, I'm attending this virtual event in 2 weeks. Is run by each speaker is a different military member who does something different in real estate. So whether that's Airbnb arbitrage or private lending or multifamily investing, the BRRRR method. And we're like, okay, we'll look into it. So at first it was oh my gosh, do we want to spend money for a ticket? But then what I found was that if you reposted the content over and over and over, you could win a free one. So luckily I won a free ticket, and it was VIP. So then it felt well, we have to go, right? We won, we didn't have to put anything into this. Let's see how it all goes down. And with VIP, you got one-on-one with the speakers. And so the multifamily speaker was like, hey, Suzy and Michael, you don't have to go straight into single family. You can go straight into multifamily. And at the time, we thought he was crazy. But then after trying to figure out single family, we were like, this isn't working. And we pivoted into multifamily. But so then from there, right, everyone's like, well, where are you going to invest? And we, living so far away, we found out right away that the bank was like, you have to have someone who lives within 2 hours of your property. So we're like, okay, step 2, right? We need partners. We know what we want to do, but how does this get bigger and bigger and bigger? And again, lovely Facebook post. Michael was like, hey, is anyone in my network? I mean, I did the same thing, but he's like, is anyone in my network wanting to learn more about multifamily investing and being a partner with that? And so somebody that Michael went to the academy with was like, yeah, I'm actually no longer in the Air Force. I'm a wholesaler and a flipper. I can let's chat, catch up and see what we can do together. And he was in Oklahoma City, and we knew that we had looked at Tulsa. We had looked at Midwest-ish markets, and we were like, perfect. We're going to go after Tulsa then if you're going to be our boots on the ground. So then starting to tell everyone Tulsa, 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 and everyone's like, you are crazy. But then one individual, which was awesome, he was like, hey, I somebody that we just met networking, because we were joining a lot of networking calls because that was our lifeline. to
Hmm.
everyone in the US. He's like,
Right.
I know one person who's investing in Tulsa. I'd love to introduce you to him. And we were like, cool. So again, went through the whole imposter syndrome. Like, sure, we want to invest in Tulsa, but we haven't. So we'll see how this goes. And this
Right.
individual ended up becoming like an organic mentor. Like he gave us homework and we'd come back. And then he gave us homework. And then,
Nice.
yeah. And so I guess like from that, we like found an 88 unit and we were like, okay, like, can we take this down? Like, because with multifamily, right, like the number, just the purchase price is much larger. So there was like a lot going on in the background. So, like, yes, we have found the area. Yes, we have a boots on the ground, but we also have to raise money. We also have to have somebody who's on the loan who's had experience. So, like, working on all that at the same time, right? So, like, just to put into perspective of the timeline, like COVID happens in March. We find this 88 unit in November, and then we finally close on it in February.
Wow. And what I love is you might have had the most low cost start to real estate investing. Like you read a book that you might have even gotten online for free from a library. I don't know. Worst case, you bought it, right? And then two, you earned a free ticket.
Totally. Cause like we didn't even know about masterminds until like a year into it. You know, like when people are like, oh, what mastermind are you in? What mastermind you're in? We're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And then finally we kind of just asked, like, what do you mean like a mastermind? And they're like, you know, like through Michael Blanc or Joe Fearless, like where a bunch of people come together just to have like a larger mentor to learn. And we're like, well, we don't know what that one is. And even to add, right, like with the 88 unit, like it's not like we came from money, had from money or anything. Like I took out all my money from my 401k to help pay for everything that you have to pay for before closing, like whether that's the attorney fees, the lender fees. Yeah, we were like really taking a chance on
Wow.
making this work.
Okay. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about that first purchase because I think there's a lot there and the truth of it, right? Because people see and yeah, they're like 8 unit, that's your first one, you're driving straight into it. You were helped by your trust fund or whatever the case is. But let's talk about like the real risk and work that goes on behind the scenes that somebody as talented as you makes seem effortless.
No, totally. I mean, it was like just a lot of working, like a lot of the days, right? So, like, that's where it comes in that it was nice that we were locked down, but we were doing a lot of 12-hour days. And it also helped that there were two of us, but it was like very, very continuous. We are putting in the work and going to the networking events. Like, we were probably going to like 7 or 8 a week, right? And like those go
Wow.
into the night. And then we were attending like a conference every other week because it's not like when we were able to fly, we were going to fly back to the US to attend all these. So we just tried to absorb as much information as we could. And then we tried to execute as much as we could because we didn't know when the time limit was up. Like, when is the lockdown going to stop? Like, when
Right.
will the US go back to in person events? Because without knowing that, like, we really put a lot of effort in. And so that also included like reaching out to friends and family to see if they wanted to invest, like really working into it. Cause it
Yeah.
wasn't like cause it's like brand new for them too, right? Like I'm going to them being like, hey, Michael and I started something new. You want to hear about it? You know, because like they don't know me as the real estate investor.
What did you do? Like, what was your day job before this? And were you doing your day job at the same time?
Yes. So I was a project manager for a biotech company in the UK. So, like, our big thing was we were like doing a warehouse transfer from the UK to the Netherlands. And I was doing it at the same time. Kind of changed everything like with the lockdown. But yeah, doing that at the same time. And then, like, Michael Wright was still having to write his PhD thesis. So it was like a mix of all of that.
Right. And that reminds me of something like when people say, "Oh, I'm too busy or I can't do it." It's like that Lucille Ball quote that I remember hearing in college and it's stuck with me for ever since is if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. And that's what I'm hearing in your story.
Totally. And it took a lot of, man, like saying no to things too, right? Because I mean, when the restrictions did lift, it was still like, no, like we still have work to do. So it's also like, what are you saying no to so that you can say yes to something else in the future?
Can you give some examples of that?
I mean, man, okay. So, like, from the 88 unit, like all in one year. So, we did the 88 unit in February. We closed on 100 unit in July, and then we closed on 191 in October. So, like, because we had the momentum, right? It was like, no, we have to say no to travel. We have to say no to, like multiple nights out with friends. Cause like everyone was excited, like, oh my gosh, restrictions are lifted. Like, let's all start hanging out again. And it's like, man, we can't, like, we have an obligation to continue to build the website. We have an obligation to make sure the business plan goes out and to make sure our
Mhm.
investors are okay. So it was just like,
Right.
no to ourselves, knowing that like one day there would be like once systems and processes were in place, right? Because what are those, right? When you start out, you have no idea.
Right. It's just brute force.
Yes. And so then once you start to like figure that out too, you're like, man, okay, now I can see how I can make all the things work at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate you sharing that because I know you're really good about enjoying life now, but that's a result of you and your hustle time. Your season. So let's go back to that 88 unit. Like we've talked about a lot of things. Let's talk about like, okay, for somebody who's listening, this like, I love this idea of syndicating. Like, I'm really intrigued, but kind of like you, they're like, I don't have millions in the bank. I don't have a rich uncle. So what is syndicating and how did you guys make that work?
Syndicating is when there are like two groups of partners essentially in the apartment. So for the 88 unit, right, there was a group of 5 of us that were general partners. So, like, what were our roles, right? So, like, there's me and Michael who were like the lead operators. So, like, we found the deal, we found the lending for the deal, like, did all acquisitions and all operations. We had to have the boots on the ground, right? Because of that role. So that was his active role. Because, like, in the general partnership, everyone is active. So then we also needed somebody to sign on the loan and have that loan experience. And then we had someone else come on to help raise capital and also sign on the loan, right? He had other duties beside helping raising capital to like fill that whole team out, like to make sure that everything runs smoothly. But then you also have limited partners and they are passive partners in the deal. So like our total raise was $1.8 million, right? Like we mentioned earlier, did not have that in the bank. So then we had friends and family, old colleagues come in at like from $35,000 to like $100,000. And they are just bringing their money and trusting us that we know and can and will be able to execute the business plan with their money. And like a benefit for them to be passive is that they don't have to take on the active role. Like they don't have to have all the calls with the property manager. They don't have to find the deal. They don't have to put in all that extra hustle work, whatever word you'd like to use, because like either they like love their W-2, right? They like love their daytime job. Like they're not looking to do another thing. They just want to find a way to make their money grow. Like they're sleeping, hanging out with their family, doing all the fun stuff.
Right, exactly. That's a perfect example or like description. Thank you. You got your general partners, limited partners, the different roles that could be a part of that. And so you're going to these friends, family, people in your sphere and saying, hey, I've got this opportunity. What does that look like for them? Like, what did you expect people to get as a return from that property? If you remember, I realize this was a long time ago. You might not know.
So I'm going to guess because I don't really remember, but from like a 5-year timeline, I think at that point it was like a 2x equity multiple. So like if they put in 50K, by the end of it, they would have 100K. And at the time, like, because our interest rate was like 3.86, so still super low. 50% of that 2x, right, was going to be cash flow, and the other 50% was going to be when we went to sell the property. I'm going to have to say it was probably like a 17% IRR for those interested in that number. But beyond that, I don't really remember the other metrics. I mean, they also, right, because we did like a cost segregation study, so they got allotted the depreciation. And for those who could use it, definitely did. So I guess those were like the main benefits.
Investing in a new market, but struggling to find the right agent. I get it. And I've built a network of investor-friendly real estate agents who understand what you need. Skip the guesswork and connect with the right agent today at adriennegreen.com/expert agent network. And I have the link for you in the show notes. I'm curious, what do you think made most of your investors say yes? Was it the deal? Was it you? What was it that made people be like, yeah, I'll do this?
That's a great question because, like, right away, you actually think it might be your friends and family who are investing with you first. But they, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like, remember the old you and they want proof of concept. So, actually, a lot of our first investors were like other investors that we met on all of the networking calls. And I think it was the consistency of us showing up over and over and over. It helped too that, like, our mentor that I mentioned at the beginning was also on the deal because it was like, well, if something goes wrong, like, how are you guys going to know what to do? And we were like, well, we have Carl. you know? Carl, like, invests there. He's used this property manager. Like, we know that the property manager will do well by us. Like, it felt like a really good partnership, like with the property manager and with the general partner. So knowing that, like, hey, this is our business plan. This is why we know we can execute it. I think that's what really helped is that we're like, this is the plan. And these are all the ways that we've thought about how the plan can work. And these are the ways the plan doesn't work. And I think like having that, I guess, extra step of thinking of like, well, what
Mhm.
happens if something does go wrong? And we're like, well, this is what it
Right.
could look like, you know? I
Mhm.
think that's what like made people the most comfortable is us just showing up consistently and then us really knowing our plan. I
Right.
mean, like
And
our plan that we hoped was going to work.
well, and I feel like when you make things too rosy, you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna be amazing. This is what's going to happen." People doubt it. And then there's like when they've done like studies and everything and like somebody does make a little mistake in let's say an interview. It's like, then it says that that actually increases people's trust and review of something because they know like how bad that mistake is and they're like, "Okay, that's manageable." So if you like share, "Hey, here's kind of, plan A and then like worst case plan B," but if they're still cool with plan B, then they're signing up. They're like, "Okay, I'm good."
Totally. And like it helped that like Carl had gone through some, like trials of like, hey, these are all the things that have happened to me in the past. So like I know that if it happens here, like I can help them overcome it. That was like a big deal as well.
I'm hearing a lot of great themes here about like discipline, right? Perseverance, continuing to show up, and the importance of networking and that team and not doing it all yourself is another a big theme I'm hearing here, which is exciting to hear. It's awesome.
But totally. Cause I mean, like if you want to do it by yourself, it's gonna get lonely.
Yeah,
Trying to avoid that.
very much so. And I'd love to talk more about, what happened after 2021. But while we're here, we're talking about collaborating and everything. You and Michael do so much together. You guys are like BFFs in addition to husband wife. It's super like heartwarming to see. And so I wonder for those listening, so many people do real estate investing with their spouse. Do you have like one or two words of wisdom or advice for doing that well?
I would have to say, like, cause for me, like, I'm like the very happy, cheery one. Well, which is totally okay. I mean, Michael's happy too. I'm just like
Yeah.
always very happy. Is like to keep the fun. You have to have a life that like lights you up. And if you don't know what that is, like go for it. So for me, I was like, well, if we're going to do this, like we have to have like fun still at the same time. So it's more of like, I bring in the light and the fun consistently, like even when it's hard, because then it doesn't feel like it bogs down everything else. So I guess like the one piece of advice is like still make sure that you're having fun or else like the non-fun will creep in quickly. And it shouldn't creep into your relationship if it's just business like not having
Right.
fun. You know what I mean? But like it does. And so just to like keep it light, which
Yes.
could be harder said than done, but it's like, I don't know. Once I got like Michael on board, it was like, nah, like this has to be fun. Like it's much easier than to like get in those modes of like, we should be really thankful that we have these opportunities. So let's make the best of them.
Right. Yeah. You're going to do it either way. Why not do it with a positive attitude?
Totally.
So I think that and just the mindfulness of being like, how can we keep this light? How can we keep this fun? How can we not feel like we're not being forced to do this? We shouldn't act like it. I love that.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Very helpful. All right. So you bought these three properties in 2021. And now we're in 2025. And it has been an adventurous few years for multifamily investing. And, I bet a lot of our listeners are not like, diehard multifamily syndicators. And so I'd love for you to kind of share what's that journey been for you? How have you dealt with it? What's that looked like in your business?
So the journey has gotten a little bit bigger, but we've also taken a break, right? Because like with larger stuff, and that's only because of like where interest rates are now. Like it can be harder to buy much larger items. Like it's more of like we took advantage of what was offered in front of us until we could. You know what I mean? So like we took advantage of buying when interest rates were low. Then once interest rates started to like increase, we took advantage of like, okay, what does creative financing look like? Like
Hmm.
if we can get sellers to like want to stay in the deals work better. And so then, right, like we got to that point and now we kind of got to the point where it's like, right, because like we and I mean, we saw this in single family too, where like prices skyrocketed and they're kind of just like hanging out there. So now we're like, okay, well,
Right.
we can wait. We can find smaller deals because, like, now we're in the process of buying an 8 unit, which is funny to say because it feels scary. Like, I'm like, an 8 unit is scary, a 100 unit is not. But it's like we still, though, are putting in the reps, right? Like,
Hmm.
because if you stop putting in the reps, like your next 10 could all be no's, but like when you continue to put them in, like they become yeses eventually. So, I mean, I guess
Hmm.
that's what it's looked like. Like, it's not like we became passive in everything. We're still active in looking. We're still active in making sure that the operations for the properties that we currently have are at its best, right? But like
Hmm.
when I mentioned those systems and processes that were in place before, now they are. Like that was part of it. It's like, how do
Right.
we focus on what we have currently? I think that was like the biggest thing. Like, let's focus on what we have until the next one does come, even if that means like it doesn't come for a year and a half or it comes for a year. Like, it'll come eventually. You just have to keep putting in like the energy into what you have and what you want.
Right. And so often people do just focus on that acquisition part, that deal flow, and they don't focus on that maintenance piece afterward because maybe it's not as exciting or as thrilling or whatever. But, you do a really good job of let's get those systems in place. Let's continue to monitor our operation. There's a lot of optimizing and money that we can make through that as well.
That was like a big aha. I don't know when I think once we finally decided, like, hey, like, let's wait till like rates might go down, or let's wait till like the cost of properties it goes down a little bit, or let's see what happens. Is that like when we really, really focused on operations, it was like, well, our personal income keeps increasing and our net worth keeps increasing, which means like you really can like make a big difference in what you already have. But a lot of people, right, like you just mentioned with acquisitions, like when you're focused on that big number, you lose sight of all the other numbers. But when you focus on like all of the numbers, it's like, oh, wait a second, like big growth can happen here too.
Hmm. Right. And especially with multifamily with that sale price, depending on your operating income, your net operating income. So, like, the more you can increase that, the more you can sell for, right?
Totally. And that even like it goes deeper into like, okay, like let's get all the property managers on board. Like, let's have them learn what a syndication is so they know it's not just like Michael and Susie and the partners who have a whole lot of money. Cause like when everyone's involved in the learning, like everything is treated differently, in my opinion. Like when we started sharing like what the background looks like, it was like, oh, hey, like now I do understand like because we don't want to just cut expenses to like screw the residents, right? Like, no, we're really cutting expenses and the effort is very small. And I don't even mean cutting expenses like we're going to get rid of trash. It's more like, hey guys, like let's shop around for the best cost for
Right.
appliances. Let's not use like this one store for everything. Like, there are some people don't realize that like $60 can make a big difference on your NOI over a 12-month time period.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's a great point. Now, any wisdom you want to share for that last phase that we often see in multifamily, that exit, that sale? What does that look like, or anything you'd share about that piece of it?
Yeah, so the broker can like really make or break the exit. So like actually I have like two pieces. So the broker part and then something that we do that has been like really successful is that's when we do a huge makeover. So like we're completely repainting the property like to give it a new, look. And if like something needs to be done with the parking lot, which more often than not, right, it needs to be like striped and that just makes it look so much better, right? So that when people go and tour the property, it's like, oh wow, right? Like they're pulling in and the shock factor has started there. Like you don't want to have someone pull in and be like, oh, this property really needs a lot of love. Like you want somebody to think like, oh, this property has been given a lot of love. But then the second part of it, right, is like the broker. Like you really want to make sure you have the best broker for the deal. Like for example, Michael and I work with like three. So it's really hard to like decide which one would be best for selling the property. But we have now seen, and thankfully, I'm happy that like other operators have shared this from us, like how going with a certain broker because of a relationship has really hurt them. Like they should have gone with one that like knows the area better or has better connections of like outside investors who are really looking to get in. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And so make sure you always choose the right broker and then take time choosing that person.
And not just have it be like, oh, it's the person we know. It's funny. So many people choose agents in general because it's like, oh, that's my uncle's best friend or some random connection instead of really vetting if they're the best agent for the job. So that's great
Totally.
advice.
Totally.
Love it. All right. Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you, Susie. I want to jump to our closing quickfire questions, which I feel like always have a great lesson learned. So let's go with the first one. What is your go-to tool for managing operations?
I love Asana. Like Asana has helped me, I mean, everywhere. Like I know about projects, I can put KPIs in there, people can upload photos. I mean, there are definitely other project management tools that other people can prefer, but like a project management tool is the best because it just, everything's in one spot. You can get out of email, you can get out of text. I mean, like when you train, right? Like people to use it, like, I don't know, for me, it's like a dream come true.
I love it. Mine is monday.com, but that's cool. I started with Asana. The point is to have one, right? To
Yes.
have one and use it. Love it. And then second, what is one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self when you were starting out?
Man, so I know I said this earlier, but it's like the same as like we get to have a life that lights us up. Like we get to. So like go after what excites you. And if you don't know what that is, like take the time to figure it out. Cause like, right, our life is really short. And so to not be able to like be your true self is a bummer. So like go
Right.
after it sooner. Yeah.
And that's great advice. Something I think is contrary to the advice we get of, well, how are you going to make money doing that? Right?
I don't know, it just
It
comes,
does.
like,
It
because
does.
like, the energy you're bringing in for yourself then, like, you get all of that, like, great
Exactly.
energy back when it comes goes everywhere
And
else.
it's sad when you see people who I think are not doing things that light them up. We'll just say you can tell.
Yeah, totally.
And then finally, what is a book that's been transformational in your investing journey?
Definitely The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Like, he broke down like, the way he breaks down being just 1% better every day has, like, made a pretty big significance in my life because like, 1% is not a lot. Like, when you initially hear, like, "You should invest in real estate," that sounds huge, you know, like, it sounds huge, but it's really, like, the 1% every single day, like, that's what compounds, you know? And so, like, I guess hearing it or reading it that way, I was like 1% doesn't even take that much time every day. So I know that I can get where I need to be just by being consistent with that. So that was like, I don't know, that was my favorite.
And I'm curious if that book has been a part of your like triathlon training as well.
Yes. I love that you asked that. That's funny because I literally, so right now I'm training for a full Ironman and it's a lot of training. So, like, I've probably been consistently training since, man, May of 22. And that's a long time, right? But like, even like last night, I
Wow.
was like, you have 10 weeks. Like, you can do anything you want in 10 weeks. You can commit to anything in 10 weeks. Like, it's not even that long in the grand scheme of things. But I was like, okay, just 1%. Like, this, you know, workout is part of the 1% of the bigger picture of like, how awful do you want this race to be? And I don't. But like it does, you know,
Right.
140.6 miles, like you don't want any of that to be awful. And so it has been a big part of it of like, you can get through this.
I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
All right. And then finally, Suzy, if somebody would like to learn more or connect further, what is the best way for them to reach you?
I think going to the website would be best. So if you went to adventurousrei.com, like /info, you pretty much can pick how you want to reach out, like by email, LinkedIn, any other form of social, whichever works best for you.
Perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes. So if you're listening or something, grab it from there later. Well, thank you so much, Suzy, for everything you've shared. It's been a great conversation. And for our listeners, I would challenge you, who do you know who needs to hear Suzy's story? Who can this help inspire and guide today? And go ahead and pause and right now, shoot this over to them. Send them a text, put an email, whatever. DM them this so that they can listen and learn as well. And then join us next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.